This is the fifth gospel of Easter, the new commandment, mini workshop number 111. We can read this in John chapter 13, verses 31 to 35, also in John 15, verse 12. After Judas had left, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man's glory is revealed. Now God's glory is revealed through him. And if God's glory is revealed through him, then God will reveal the glory of the Son of Man in himself, and he will do so at once. My children, I shall not be with you very much longer. You will look for me, but I tell you now what I told the Jewish authorities. You cannot go where I am going. And now I give you a new commandment. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. If you have love for one another, then everyone will know that you are my disciples." And here I have a beautiful painting of the Lord talking to the 11 disciples after the Last Supper. When Jesus was asked by the Pharisees, which is the most important commandment in the law, he did answer. You can read this in Mark, Matthew, and in Luke, in all the synoptic gospels. See, when the Pharisees heard that Jesus had already silenced the Sadducees, they came together, and one of them, a teacher of the law, tried to trap him with a question. "Teacher," he asked, "which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus answered, "Love your Lord your God. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and the most important commandment. The second most important commandment is like it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself." The whole law of Moses and the teaching of the prophets depend on these two commandments. You have Jesus silencing the Pharisees and the Sadducees. When the teacher of the law tried to trap Jesus with the question, and of course, you know what the Lord answered. Then the greatest commandment: love God, love thy neighbor. In a nutshell, and you have it complete what the Lord said. "You shall love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all your mind." This is the first and most and great commandment. The second is like unto it: "You shall love thy neighbor as yourself." These two commandments and all the law of Moses and the prophets. So what is all this about? We have the two most important commandments, and you also have a new commandment. Well, the good news is that it's not confusing at all. The contrast of the gospel to find the central characters, facts, items, and activities presented in this gospel today. After the Last Supper ended and Judas had left, so Judas was out of the question, the Lord started giving to his disciples some final instructions and also preparing them for what was about to happen. It was kind of a farewell to his loyal disciples, the 11 one remaining. And then he revealed to them the new commandment in two parts. Love one another. As I have loved you, you must love one another. That's part one. And part two is, if you have love for one another, then everyone will know that you are my disciples. Take note of the first word. If, that's a big if. Because if you don't have it, you put it into a negative, if you don't know one another, nobody will know that you are my disciple. You are not going to be my disciple. Nobody is going to identify you as my disciples. What was the magisterium of the church? The Catechism tells us about the new commandment. Catechism 1970, the law of the gospel requires us to make the decisive choice between the two ways and to put into practice the words of the Lord. This sum it up in the golden rule: whatever you wish that men will do to you, do so to them. This is the law and the prophets. The entire law of the gospel is contained in the new commandment of Jesus, to love one another as he has loved us. So in this gospel, the Lord is teaching us, and we should be able to identify at least 4 important teachings. Teaching number 1, after Judas left the Last Supper to betray the Lord, Jesus gave to his disciples some final instruction and information. And then he revealed to the disciples the new commandment in 2 parts. I give you a commandment: love one another as I have loved you. The second part: by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. John 13:35. Teaching number 2, the Catechism of the Catholic Church, paragraph 1970, teaches that the entire law of the gospel is contained in the new commandment of Jesus, to love one another as he has loved us. From John 13:34 and 15:12. Issue number 3. And there is a reason why Christians need to freely follow the new commandment. If you have love for one another, then everyone will know that you are my disciples. Issue number 4. This is a new commandment. It doesn't eliminate nor change any of the 10 commandments given by the Lord to Moses. The entire law of the gospel is contained in the new commandment of Jesus. Catechism 1970, paragraph 1970. It is the embodiment of the new covenant, the redemption, and the new way of life given by Jesus and faithfully proclaimed by the church all over the world. It identifies the disciples of Jesus. Some key concepts that you may find useful to remember. The Lord did answer the question from the Pharisees about which is the greatest commandment in the law. But he gave them a twofold answer, and also his explanation. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and the most important commandment. But he didn't stop there. He continued. He said the second most important commandment is like it: love your neighbor as you love yourself. And he finished saying the whole law of Moses and the teachings of the prophets depend on these 2 commandments. So the Pharisees, the teachers of the law, have to publicly agree with Jesus. And after that, they were made speechless. Now, after the Last Supper, Jesus gave to his disciples some final information and instructions. A new commandment in 2 parts. Love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. And if you have love for one another, then everyone will know that you are my disciples. So let me ask you just a few review questions. Why do you think that Jesus gave to his disciples the new commandment? What is the catechism teaching about the new commandment? What does the new commandment holds according to the law, according to the church? What identifies a disciples of the Lord? The reference we're taking from the Good News Translation GNT and from the Catechism of the Catholic Church. This is Alejandro Burgos from El Paso, Texas. This was the Gospel for this Sunday. See you next Sunday. Please don't forget.